Millionaire abandoned her own baby with a black janitor at a gas station. 5 years later, she froze when she saw the 5-year-old boy running toward her in the parking lot of Chicago's most expensive private school, shouting "Daddy! Daddy!" to the black man in a janitor's uniform waiting next to a shiny BMW. Vivian Blackwood almost dropped the keys to her Porsche. This couldn't be the same baby she had left in the arms of Thomas, the company janitor, on a rainy December night 5 years ago at a gas station on the outskirts of town. "Take him," she had said, pushing the baby into Thomas's surprised chest. "I can't do this. My family can't know I had a child with." She hadn't even finished the sentence. She just got in the car and drove away, leaving 28-year-old Thomas Williams standing in the rain with a child he barely knew in his arms. Thomas had spent the last 3 years of her life as a janitor at Blackwood Industries, working night shifts to support his sick mother. He was invisible to people like Vivian, until that night when she stayed late, crying in her office after an argument with her fiancé, and Thomas offered her a tissue and a kind word. One thing led to another. 9 months later, there was a baby. And Vivian Blackwood, heir to a $500 million real estate empire, had made the most cowardly decision of her life. Now, 5 years later, she watched in disbelief as little Nathan ran into Thomas's arms with contagious energy. The boy was dressed in the uniform of the prestigious Wellington Academy, the same school she herself had attended, and carried a leather backpack that cost more than the monthly salary she paid Thomas. "How is this possible?" she whispered to herself, hidden behind a column. Thomas lifted Nathan into the air, laughing in a way Vivian had never seen him do before. There was something different about him. His posture, the watch on his wrist, the confident way he greeted other parents. This was not the same shy man who used to clean her office in silence. "Dad, did you see? I got an A+ on my math test." Nathan proudly showed her a piece of paper. "I knew you could do it, champ. Now let's go home. Your grandmother made that chocolate cake you love." Vivian felt a tightness in her chest. Grandmother? Thomas lived with his mother in a one-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. How on earth could they afford private school? As father and son walked hand in hand toward the BMW, Thomas paused for a moment and looked directly in the direction where Vivian was hiding. For a split second, their eyes met, and she saw something that made her instinctively recoil. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't fear. It was the look of someone who had been waiting for exactly this moment. If you're wondering how an abandoned janitor with a baby managed to give that child a better life than his millionaire mother could offer, you're not alone. Subscribe to the channel, because this story of silent revenge will show you that sometimes the person you underestimate carries secrets too powerful to be revealed, until the right time comes. Vivian couldn't sleep that night. The image of Thomas and Nathan together hammered in her mind like a looping nightmare. How could a janitor who earned $2,800 a month afford $35,000 a year in tuition at Wellington Academy? How did he have money for a BMW that cost more than she spent on shoes in a year? 3 days later, she made a decision that would change everything. She hired a private investigator. "I want everything on Thomas Williams," she told Detective Marcus Chun in his office. "Where he lives, how he lives, where the money comes from. Everything." A week later, Marcus returned with a report that made her question her own sanity. "Thomas Williams, 33, hasn't worked as a janitor for 3 years," Marcus began, leafing through documents. "He owns TW Solutions, a digital security consulting firm that made $2.8 million last year. He lives in an $850,000 house in Lincoln Park. He has a BMW, a $400,000 savings account, and a college fund for his son Nathan worth $180,000. Vivian felt the world spin. That's impossible. He was a janitor. He was, Marcus confirmed. But he also had a degree in computer science from Northwestern University. He worked as a janitor to take care of his mother, who had cancer. She passed away 2 years ago, leaving him a small inheritance that he used as startup capital for the company. The pieces began to fit together in Vivian's mind like a diabolical puzzle. Thomas had never been just a janitor. He was educated, intelligent, strategic. And she, in her blind arrogance, had completely underestimated the man with whom she had shared a night and fathered a child. "There's one more thing," Marcus continued, hesitantly. "I found records that he looked for you several times in the first 2 years after the abandonment. He tried to contact you through the company, sent letters that were intercepted by your secretary. He wanted to formalize the boy's situation, get child support, share responsibility. Vivian paled. My secretary never told me anything about letters. Because you instructed your entire staff to filter inconveniences out of your personal life, remember? Thomas gave up after your lawyers sent a cease and desist letter, threatening to sue him for harassment. The memory came back like a punch in the stomach. She had completely forgotten the instructions she had given her staff after the incident. Any attempt at contact from inappropriate people was to be blocked immediately. He raised Nathan alone for 5 years, Marcus concluded. He worked 3 jobs during the day, studied programming at night, and took care of the boy into the early hours of the morning. Neighbors say it was common to see him walking down the street at 3 a.m. with a baby in his arms because Nathan wouldn't stop crying. Vivian felt a pang of something she hadn't experienced in years, genuine guilt. But she quickly stifled it with anger. Thomas had done too well for someone who should have been broken and desperate. That wasn't right. I want you to find out if there's anything illegal about it, she said to Marcus. No one goes from janitor to millionaire in 3 years without getting their hands dirty. Marcus looked at her with an expression that mixed professionalism and discreet judgment. Miss Blackwood, I can assure you that there is nothing illegal. Thomas Williams built his company from scratch, with hard work and intelligence. He is admired in the community, a mentor to young black entrepreneurs, and Nathan is a happy, well-cared-for child. But Vivian wasn't listening. In her privileged and twisted mind, Thomas's prosperity was a personal affront. How dare he be doing well when she had expected to find him broken and grateful for any crumbs of attention she could offer? Find out everything about the boys' school, she ordered. I want to know who the other parents are, who finances what. There must be something I can use. What Vivian didn't know was that Thomas had meticulously documented every blocked attempt at contact, every intercepted letter, every lawyer who defended her. For 5 years, he had built not just a business, but a detailed dossier of parental neglect that any judge would find devastating. And now, seeing her hide behind columns and hire investigators like a desperate stalker, Thomas finally had confirmation that he had made the right decision 5 years ago. Nathan was infinitely better off without a mother like Vivian Blackwood. What she also didn't realize was that Thomas's prosperous life included something that would make her freeze in horror when she found out. A loving wife, a stepmother whom Nathan had been calling mom for 2 years, and a stable family that would never allow an unstable, narcissistic woman to destroy the peace they had built together. While Vivian planned her next moves, convinced she was dealing with a lucky janitor, Thomas watched her every move through the digital security system he had installed throughout his life. After all, when you specialize in protecting companies from external threats, protecting your family becomes just another day at work. Vivian couldn't accept that a simple janitor had surpassed her own prosperity in just 5 years. Her privileged mind simply refused to process that Thomas had built success through his own merit. There had to be something wrong, something illegal, some flaw she could exploit. I want you to investigate his company's clients, she ordered Marcus Chun during their second meeting. Find out if there are any suspicious contracts, cash payments, anything that might suggest money laundering or illegal activities. Marcus sighed discreetly. In 20 years as a private investigator, he had rarely seen anyone so obsessed with destroying a person who had clearly followed the right path in life. Ms. Blackwood, I can assure you that TW Solutions is a legitimate company. Its clients include banks, hospitals, law firms, all above suspicion. Then investigate the school. Vivian slammed her fist on the table. How can he afford $35,000 a year? There must be fraudulent scholarships, forged documents. No one goes from janitor to millionaire without cheating. What Vivian didn't know was that her every move was being carefully monitored by Thomas. After all, when you're a digital security expert, protecting your family from threats is just another day at the office. Thomas had set up alerts in his and Nathan's names on all internet search engines. The moment Vivian hired Marcus Chun, Thomas received automatic notifications about searches related to his name, company, and address. His monitoring system was so sophisticated that he knew exactly when someone tried to access information about his life. Honey, we need to talk, Thomas said to his wife, Diana, as she helped Nathan with his math homework at the kitchen table. Diana Williams was a pediatrician, a brilliant 31-year-old black woman who had become the mother Nathan never had. Nathan, go brush your teeth, champ. Mom and Dad need a few minutes, Diana said, affectionately ruffling the boy's hair. When Nathan ran upstairs, Thomas showed Diana the monitoring reports on his tablet. Vivian Blackwood is investigating us. She hired a private investigator 2 weeks ago. Diana frowned. The biological mother? Why? After 5 years. Because she saw me at Nathan's school and can't accept that I've thrived without her, Thomas explained. In her mind, I should have been broken and desperate, grateful for any crumbs of attention she could offer. And what is she looking for? Thomas slid his finger across the screen, showing the detailed reports. Initially, basic information about my company and finances. Now she's trying to find something illegal, some way to prove that my success is fraudulent. Diana crossed her arms, her expression hardening. As a black doctor who had faced prejudice throughout her career, she recognized the pattern immediately. She can't accept that a black man is successful on his own merits. Exactly. And now she's escalating. She wants to investigate Nathan's school, look for irregularities in my company's contracts. Thomas paused, glancing toward the stairs where Nathan was brushing his teeth, oblivious to the storm brewing around him. Diana, I need to tell you something I've never mentioned before. He went to his office and returned with a thick folder. During the first 2 years after Vivian left me with Nathan, I documented everything. Every attempt I made to contact her, every letter I sent, every lawyer she sent to intimidate me. Diana opened the folder and found hundreds of meticulously organized pages. Copies of letters sent by registered mail, records of attempts to contact her by phone, printouts of messages sent through the company, even recordings of conversations with secretaries who had been ordered to block me. My God, Thomas. You tried to formalize Nathan's situation for 2 years. I wanted her to be his mother, Diana. I wanted Nathan to grow up knowing both his parents. I offered joint custody, a child support agreement, supervised visitation. Anything. Thomas pointed to a specific section of the documents. Look at this. Diana read aloud, written instruction from Ms. Blackwood. Any attempt at contact from Mr. Williams should be immediately forwarded to the legal department for a cease and desist order. Ms. Blackwood does not wish any communication related to the personal matter discussed. She instructed her staff to treat me like a stalker, Thomas explained. Every letter I sent was returned unopened. Every attempt at contact was blocked. When my lawyers tried to establish formal communication about child support and custody, she responded with threats of harassment lawsuits. Diana turned the pages, finding more devastating evidence. Medical reports for Nathan that Thomas had paid for himself, receipts for all of the child's expenses, photos of birthdays that Vivian had never attended, school documents where only Thomas was listed as responsible. She abandoned Nathan completely, Diana murmured. And now she wants to come back. Not to be his mother, Thomas corrected. To destroy the family we built. She can't accept that Nathan is happy without her. At that moment, Nathan came running down the stairs in his pajamas and threw himself into Diana's arms. Mommy, can you read me a story today? Diana hugged the boy, feeling a wave of fierce protectiveness. Nathan had called her mommy since he was 3, when she and Thomas got married. To him, Diana was his mother in every way that mattered. Of course, baby. Pick out the book you want. While Diana took Nathan upstairs, Thomas continued organizing his paperwork. But now he was doing much more than just filing papers. He was preparing a defense that Vivian would never see coming. Using his digital security skills, Thomas had created a complete dossier on Vivian's life over the past 5 years. Every failed relationship, every questionable financial decision, every moment of emotional instability was documented through public sources, social media, corporate records, magazine articles about her family. Most devastatingly, Thomas had discovered that Vivian had a pattern. 3 serious relationships in the last 5 years, all ending when the men found out about Nathan. In each case, she had chosen the relationship over maternal responsibility. Thomas. Diana appeared in the office doorway. Nathan is asleep. What else haven't you told me? Thomas turned the computer screen toward her. Vivian hasn't changed, Diana. She continues to choose men who don't want children. She's currently dating a 45-year-old investor who has on his dating app profile, no baggage, no drama, no kids. Diana sat down next to him, looking at the evidence on the screen. She doesn't want Nathan back to be his mother. She wants to prove she can control him whenever she wants. It's about power, not maternal love. Thomas closed his laptop and looked at Diana. But here's the difference between us and her. We're going to protect our family using the truth. She's trying to destroy us with lies. What Vivian had no idea was that Thomas had turned his own life into an impenetrable digital fortress. Every contract his company had was legally documented. Every client had a transparent payment history. Every penny earned was traceable. More importantly, Thomas had turned Vivian's investigation against her. Every time Marcus Chun searched for TW Solutions, Thomas received notifications detailing exactly what they were looking for. He was always one step ahead, knowing what aspects of his life she would try to attack before she even formulated her plan. "Diana, I need to ask you a difficult question," Thomas said, holding her hands. "If Vivian tries something legal, something to take Nathan away from us, are you prepared for a battle?" Diana didn't hesitate for a second. "Thomas, Nathan is my son. Not biologically, but in every other sense. I raised him, loved him, was there for every nightmare, every achievement, every moment that mattered. If she wants to try to take my son away from me, she's going to find out that she completely underestimated who she's up against in protecting this family." Thomas smiled for the first time in days. Vivian was investigating the wrong man. She thought she was dealing with a lucky janitor who had gotten lucky in business. In fact, she was facing a security expert who had spent 5 years preparing for this very moment. While Vivian wasted her energy looking for non-existent crimes and imaginary irregularities, Thomas was compiling 5 years of evidence that would prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that she had voluntarily abandoned her son and did not even deserve supervised visitation. What she also didn't know was that Thomas had a card up his sleeve that would destroy any attempt at custody: audio recordings of all the conversations Vivian had had with Marcus Chen about her investigations. As a digital security expert, Thomas knew exactly how to obtain this information completely legally. And the most delicious part of all, Vivian was paying a private investigator to collect evidence that would only confirm what Thomas already knew, that he was an exemplary father and she was an unstable woman obsessed with destroying the happiness of a family she herself had abandoned. But Thomas saved his most powerful trump card for last. Something about Vivian herself that she desperately didn't want her wealthy, conservative family to find out, and that Thomas had meticulously documented, waiting for exactly this moment of final confrontation. While she searched for non-existent dirt in his life, Thomas already had evidence that could not only destroy any legal chance she had of seeing Nathan, but also permanently ruin her social reputation. The difference was that he would only use this information if she forced a war that would put Nathan at risk. Vivian's obsession with destroying Thomas's life had finally taken her too far. 2 weeks after intensifying her investigations, she made the decision that would seal her own fate. She filed a court petition demanding joint custody of Nathan, claiming that she had been emotionally coerced into abandoning her son and was now financially and emotionally prepared to be a mother. "She did exactly what we expected," Thomas told Diana, showing her the court notice on his tablet. "Now we can use everything." Patricia Wong, the lawyer Thomas had discreetly hired 3 months earlier, smiled as she reviewed the mountain of evidence he had compiled. "In my 20-year career, I've never seen such a well-documented case of parental abandonment. Vivian Blackwood has no idea what she's about to face." Vivian, confident in her legal strategy, had hired Harrison and Associates, an expensive Chicago law firm known for representing wealthy families in custody disputes. During her initial meeting with her lawyer, she painted a dramatic picture of a young mother who had been emotionally manipulated by Thomas. "The man took advantage of my vulnerability," she lied brazenly to her lawyer. "I was young, under intense family pressure, and he convinced me that it would be better for the baby to stay with him. Now I realize it was manipulation." Vivian's lawyer, David Harrison, believed his millionaire client's narrative. After all, who would question the word of an heiress against a former janitor? But Thomas was 3 steps ahead. Using his monitoring systems, he had legally recorded all of Vivian's conversations with Marcus Chun about his private investigations. The recordings revealed her true motivations, not maternal love, but an obsession with controlling and destroying the family Thomas had built. The first shock for Vivian came during the discovery of evidence, when Patricia Wong presented 5 meticulously organized boxes of documentation covering every day of the last 5 years. Letter sent by registered mail on January 15, 2020, Patricia read aloud in the deposition room. "Mr. Thomas Williams requesting meeting to discuss joint custody and child support. Status: returned unopened, per Ms. Blackwood's order. David Harrison tried to interrupt. Objection, relevance. Letter sent on March 3, 2020. Patricia continued relentlessly. Mr. Williams offering supervised visitation agreement. Status, returned unopened. Letter sent on May 18, 2020. As the list grew, showing 47 documented attempts at contact blocked by Vivian, her face progressively paled. She had completely forgotten the instructions she had given her staff to block Thomas. Your Honor, Patricia addressed the judge, I now present the audio recordings of the conversations between Ms. Blackwood and private investigator Marcus Chun, legally obtained through a security monitoring system. Vivian's voice echoed through the courtroom. Find out everything about the boys' school. I want to know if there's anything I can use against him. There must be fraudulent scholarships, forged documents. No one goes from janitor to millionaire without cheating. Vivian felt nauseous as she listened to her own words. She had completely forgotten that Thomas was a digital security expert. Patricia played more recordings. She's trying to find something illegal, some way to prove that my success is fraudulent. There has to be something wrong, something illegal, some flaw she can exploit. The judge, the Honorable Robert Martinez, frowned deeply. Ms. Blackwood, can you explain why you were illegally investigating your son's father instead of simply contacting him directly to discuss custody? David Harrison was visibly sweating. His client had lied completely about her motivations and background. But Thomas had saved the most devastating blow for last. Patricia presented the final piece of evidence, financial documents showing that Vivian had used Nathan's personal information, including his social security number, for fraudulent credit attempts through Richard Delacroix, the con artist she was dating. Your Honor, Patricia declared, Ms. Blackwood jeopardized Nathan's financial security by providing the child's personal information to a known criminal. The Seattle Police Department has confirmed that Nathan was a potential victim of identity theft. Vivian rose from her chair, desperate. I didn't know. Richard tricked me. I was trying to. You were trying to what? The judge interrupted coldly. Use a man you just met to fraudulently sue the father of your child? A father who, according to the records presented here, raised Nathan alone, financed his education, took care of his health, and built a stable family for him. Thomas finally stood up to speak. His voice was calm, controlled, devastating. Your Honor, for 5 years I offered Ms. Blackwood countless opportunities to be Nathan's mother. She consciously chose to reject them. Nathan now has a loving mother, Diana, who has been present at every doctor's appointment, every school party, every nighttime nightmare. Nathan is happy, thriving, and secure. Thomas looked directly at Vivian. You don't want to be Nathan's mother. You want to prove that you can control him when it suits you. That's not maternal love. It's destructive narcissism. The judge's gavel fell with absolute finality. Based on the evidence presented, I declare that Ms. Blackwood voluntarily abandoned her son and subsequently demonstrated a pattern of behavior that jeopardizes the child's well-being. The custody petition is permanently denied. Furthermore, I order you to refrain from any future contact with Nathan Williams or his family. Vivian collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Her wealthy, conservative family, present at the hearing, watched in horror as her darkest secrets were exposed publicly. Her current boyfriend, who had discovered about Nathan through the legal proceedings, had already ended the relationship via text message. But Thomas wasn't done yet. Outside the courthouse, he handed local reporters complete copies of all public documents in the case, including audio recordings of Vivian attempting to destroy her family. That night, millionaire heiress attempts to destroy family she abandoned was headline news in every Chicago newspaper. The social reputation Vivian valued most had evaporated in a matter of hours. What she never understood was that Thomas did not act out of revenge, but out of protection. Every move had been calculated to ensure that Nathan grew up safe, loved, and free from the toxicity of a mother who saw children as property to be controlled when convenient. While Vivian faced social isolation and the ruin of her reputation, Thomas returned home where Nathan was waiting for him with a drawing of the family. Dad, Mom Diana, and himself, all smiling under a bright yellow sun. No children appeared crying and abandoned at gas stations in Nathan's drawings. Because Thomas had ensured that this boy knew only love, stability, and unconditional protection from the first day they became a family. The final blow came 3 weeks later, when Vivian discovered that Thomas had donated $100,000 to a child protection foundation, specifically to help single parents abandoned with babies. The donation was made publicly, on behalf of Nathan Williams and all children who deserve families who choose to stay. 2 years later, Thomas watched Nathan, now 7, present his school project on real-life heroes, an essay about how his dad turned a small business into a success by helping other families protect themselves digitally. TW Solutions had grown 400% after the case was made public. Companies wanted to hire the dad who beat the millionaire, making Thomas a reference in digital family protection. Nathan was now studying at an even better school, had a guaranteed college fund, and most importantly, never doubted that he was completely loved. Diana was 3 months pregnant. Nathan had specifically asked to choose his little brother's name, saying he wanted someone who was truly part of our family from the beginning. Vivian, on the other hand, lived isolated in a modest apartment after losing her family inheritance. Her conservative family had disowned her after the public scandal. 3 relationships ended when the men discovered her story. She now worked as a receptionist, invisible and irrelevant. She tried to contact Thomas one last time by email, asking for just a photo of Nathan to see how he was doing. The response was automatic. This address does not accept messages from blocked senders. Thomas never replied because Nathan never asked about her. For the boy, family meant those who were there for the victories, the defeats, the nightmares, and the dreams. "Dad," Nathan said that night, "my teacher asked if I miss my biological mother. I said you can't miss someone who was never there, right?" Thomas smiled, hugging his son. Family isn't who gave you DNA, champ. It's who chooses to stay when things get tough. Thomas's true revenge wasn't to destroy Vivian. It was to build a family so solid that she became completely unnecessary. While she wasted energy trying to regain what she had abandoned, he invested love in those who really mattered. If you believe that the best revenge is success built on true love, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove it. Those who plant abandonment reap irrelevance, but those who sow presence reap eternal family.